Welcome to episode number 1 of the Sharpen Your Pencil podcast. And on today's episode, we're joined by Gareth Davies, the director of Proline Internals. So, hi Gareth, how's it going? You all right?
I'm good, Joseph. Nice to catch up again. It's been a while since we last spoke, so good to see you.
Busy these days?
Yeah. Business again it's been a strong year, strong end to 2023. A few little hiccups along the way, like there always is in construction. But yeah, it's been a strong end to 2023 and a bright start to 2024.
So just to give a bit of background for the people who are kind of listening to the episode who might not be familiar with Proline, when did you set up Proline Internals?
Proline Internals started in 2016. We didn't start on multi-million pound student accommodation fit outs or Amazon mega sheds. We kind of started out small, shop fits. I think our first ever project was a dessert shop fit out in like a Luton High Street, kind of a small one door ex-retail unit, and kind of it's grown from there. But I've always been in the industry, whether that was being kind of a fixer or kind of labour gangs and that kind of thing. It was 2016 is when we took the jump into supply and fix.
So is that when you first went from being a sole trader to a limited company?
Yeah, 2016.
So day one of Proline Internals, was that you on your own taking the dive, or was there anybody else kind of along the first initial steps?
Yeah. So kind of it's a family business. Me and my wife are directors. My wife Kimberly, but yeah, we kind of ran with it from 2016.
So when you're starting a limited company in the drylining sector, and you've maybe not been involved in the supply and fit world or even the limited company world, what was kind of a solution for you for filling in maybe certain gaps in knowledge you might have had at the time, like insurances or, just making sure you're ticking the right boxes? What was your solution to that?
Yeah, it was kind of forced upon me. So as I said, I was always a fixer. And, I was kind of used to doing large installations as a fixer myself, partitions, ceiling grids all around the country. And, when you start doing that on your own, kind of as a sole trader many years ago, then you'll pick up another guy, and, before you know it, you've got a few guys around you working with you. And I was working on a project for a significant sized drylining company, and the labour package was sub to me. And the thing that happened, and it happens a lot, is a lot of those companies will go bump. And we were in the middle of a large, I think it was a care home in Leamington Spa, and the company above me, I won't name names, but they kind of went bump halfway through the project. I've probably got me and maybe 20 guys on site. We've lost a significant amount of money. Everything feels like the world's caving in on you. And we had a phone call from the main contractor. They called me about 4 or 5 days later. It all settled down a little bit, and they were like, look, kind of, you've ran this project from the very start. Your guys have installed everything from the very start. You hold the key to everything. You know where everything is. How about if we bring you back, we'll supply the materials to the end of the project. We'll set you up health and safety. We'll set you up with RAMs. We'll guide you through what you need to be a decent, successful subcontractor. If you come and finish the project for us, we'll help you with that. And we'll make sure that you haven't lost out financially. So for me, it was kind of like, okay, wow. So we went back, we completed the project. There was a really great QS. I know QSs don't have a fantastic name in the industry, but there was a QS called Helen. I'll never forget her. And she kind of took my hand and held me through all the things that I didn't really kind of understand. A lot of people in this industry, they either come from the commercial background, they've been to, university, they've got a QS background or something like that, or there's a few of us that have come from the tools up, and, understanding kind of RAMs, health and safety requirements, all the public liabilities and all that kind of thing was something new to us. And it just, it didn't feel like a massive jump, just need a little bit of help with some, dotting the I's and crossing the T's. So that's where it started for us. And I thought, what, I'm tired of being underneath people that can go pop at any time. I need a little bit more security. I've got a young family. I've been in the industry now, I've been in the industry since 2003. I had enough decent contacts, and I thought, I'm just going to go and run with this myself. And, just started doing the small fit out stuff. We'd always get weekend workers, fixers and that anyway, and just kind of, capitalised on that with a few relationships that I'd built, and it kind of rolled on from there.
So I imagine when you were first transitioning into, doing more bits in the office, at what point did you kind of recognise it was maybe the right time for you to fully come off the tools?
Probably about 6 months into that. I feel kind of, I had decent skills, so I didn't go straight into partitioning when I was younger. I kind of left school and I became an insurance underwriter. I worked for Norwich Union for a few years, and kind of, I learned different skills, presentation skills, speaking to people, building relationships, software skills. And I was never the fastest, quickest fixer who could earn the most money. And I soon realised I was better suited to getting more guys around me and organising everything that they needed. Materials on site, that's, getting the drawings, getting the specs right, and kind of that's when I realised I was more suited to probably being off the tools, and I could make probably, a better success for my life by coming off them. And, the 6 a.m. cold starts could be put to bed a little bit as well, which was great.
So just to help paint that picture for people who might be listening, could you just kind of lay out, in terms of the head office, like the staff you've kind of got on board and how like the internal layout of the company is?
Yeah, okay. So there's myself as company director, and I've got Simon Crawford who works alongside me as commercial manager. We're looking to make a couple of appointments in the next couple of months, probably a QS and then a QS stroke full-time estimator. We're looking to probably bring one of those on board in the next couple of months, but currently, it's just me and Simon as commercial manager. We have 2 operations managers out on site, and then everyone else kind of is subcontractors.
Would it be a fair assumption to say that everything you do is commercial at the minute?
Yeah. So we predominantly work in the student sector. So we do a lot of high-rise student accommodation. We do some luxury residential accommodation, quite active in the industrial unit fit out. So you might see these, Amazon style buildings at the side of motorways, the huge sheds. We've done a significant number of them. Little bit of healthcare. Office fit outs were our bread and butter, when we started in 2016, 17, and kind of COVID kind of put a stop to that. And then, I think you just got to be in as many sectors as possible at the minute, try and diverse across them all.
So you've got your first client, right? How did you kind of progress to working with so many different companies? Without giving too many secrets away, what was your kind of marketing strategy?
Yeah, I'd say probably key to it was using LinkedIn early on. I got on LinkedIn pretty much as soon as it opened up. I just saw it as an opportunity. It just seemed like a business Facebook to me, and I'd always, been quite active on it and showing kind of what we'd done, different stages of the build we were doing. And I think just building relationships all the way through, every person that you meet in this industry, saving their number, speaking to them, it's a real, this business, they say your network is your net worth. So, always take the opportunity to, get involved with people, understand a little bit about them, get on with people, and, just stay in touch. And, it wasn't, I don't have a black book of, commercial people that I knew. I kind of had to find my way through meeting them, networking events and things like that. It's a little bit daunting going out to them and just trying to, impress on people a decent first impression. And also it's all right, creating a good first impression, but then you have to follow through on what you've promised, and you need to deliver them a product that they're, a class product that they want to use again and again. And that's key is repeat clients.
So I think last time we spoke, you was using a software called ChalkString. Is that still the case?
Yeah, ChalkString is some commercial software we adopted probably about 3 years ago. ChalkString is it's a cradle to grave piece of software system. So we may get a tender, it might have a bit of quants on it and some drawings. We'll look at that. We can upload the drawings onto ChalkString. We can do a takeoff on it. We will then create the products that's needed. So we commercial dry liners predominantly will be looking at maybe 8 or 9 different types of wall types. Chalkstream will work out exactly how much shallow track, deep track, how many C studs, what size, which type of board, is it double layered, deflection detail, and kind of we can build those products. We use the takeoff software to figure out how much of that product we need. We'll be able to figure out the labour requirements. We can create it by zones. So let's say, we're looking at one this week. It's a 22-storey residential accommodation. We can load that onto Chalkstring by floor. And once we've got it loaded on, if the project goes live and we're lucky enough to win it, our site managers can say, right, we'd like to get 100% of the metal, half the boards, half the insulation, the deflection strips, whatever. We can kind of just, by looking at the zones, we can see exactly how much material is needed for that area, get that sent directly from Chalkstring to our distribution partners. It will go through as a live order with them. The guys can, when it gets to site, the guys can see that it's been delivered. We can add that to Chalkstream. We can do variations on it. We can do our monthly applications on it. So it's really kind of key to our business. It was pretty easy to adapt it into our business. We didn't really have that system. We were quite a young company at the time. It was about the time that I needed something like that rather than Excel sheets or even just working out on an A4 piece of paper. So our whole business is reliant on Chalkstream cradle to grave, and it's really helped us going forward.
Yeah, no, that's good. With the new year having recently passed, have you kind of set any new company goals for this year or the coming years?
Yeah, so we're just doing a growth business plan actually, and we're looking at different markets to get into. It's no secret construction is a risky industry. There's been numerous main contractors go bump in one big one yesterday, 4, 5, 6, the back end of last year. And we do a lot of work in kind of the private sector and a lot for clients that are raising money with private equity firms and things like that. And that's great. And, most of it's safe, but probably we want to get more into the government funded contracts. We're looking at the jails, judiciary systems, healthcare, commercial, education. Most of those are funded by the government, and it's probably a little bit of a safer environment to be in. So kind of getting across into new sectors is probably key. Bringing another couple of people on board, as I spoke about before, is also key. And it's difficult. We could price unsecured tenders all day long. We have to be picky on what we choose, but bringing in new people to the company, will that enable us to cast our net a little bit wider and show a few more people what Proline can do? Hopefully that's the case.
So I know before we started recording, you mentioned you're working alongside a marketing companies. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I've always, like I spoke to you before, LinkedIn was key to probably our growth at the start. And I look around at construction companies and drylining companies in particular. It's almost a little bit dinosaur at times. So, not all companies, but some companies. And I think it's important to get out what you're doing on site. There's only so many pictures of walls you can put on LinkedIn or ceilings before it gets pretty boring. So we try and put a spin on things. You won't find me on TikTok dancing about and doing silly little routines. But kind of we like to take people on our sites, show them what we're doing, why we're doing it. For some reason, people kind of seem to like, there's a big calling for it on TikTok and Instagram. People like to see how things go together. They like to see the types of projects that we're working on, big cavernous, mega sheds look pretty cool. Students like to look at their student digs that they're going to move into. So yeah, it's those videos tend to do pretty well. Just me walking around babbling on about what we're doing and why we're doing it. So I just think there's not many people doing it. I saw a little gap in the market for it, and yeah, it's something we've done for probably about 1.5 years, 2 years now. And yeah, we'll carry on doing it, I feel.
there are probably a few, maybe. There's at least one person listening now who probably is looking to either start a business or grow their current business. What's a bit of like a mental check for you when you interview new people to potentially bring onto the business?
Well, I think, first of all, it's really important to put your ego in check. One of the best pieces of advice that I was ever given was kind of, put people in positions that are better than you. So kind of, I'm not a QS or an estimator by trade, I might have priced all those projects at the beginning at the start, but I knew that was a hole in my armory. I needed somebody with a commercial background that kind of knew that, I could manage projects, but I also knew, operationally, but I also knew that there are better people out there than me, much more experienced. So I think that's the most important thing. Get your ego in check and try and get people who are much better than you. There's no point having people in your company that, you want to be above and, looking at them down below. You need to get the best people in the best position and then kind of, just try and knit it all together.
Yeah, so let's paint a picture then. You sat down for an interview with a potential site manager for Proline. What's some of the criteria that you think that they've got to have to kind of come on board?
Yeah. So as we were a youngish company and we're pretty active on social media, we talked about chalkstream commercial software. We have, different health and safety software. We're quite, I'm always looking at software-led things, or I love it looking at artificial intelligence, things like that. So it's important that those people that come on there kind of systems focused. They're not scared of a spreadsheet. They don't want to do things the old way of and there's something to be said for that. But it's important to get a mix of people who can operationally drive a project on site, and sometimes that means being kind of strong-minded, level-headed, abrupt at times. But also you need to kind of use all the tools available to us as a company to streamline everything. We want things done in a certain way, and everything needs to streamline into that process. So I'd say being open-minded, being you don't have to be an IT genius, and just being able to look at things in a different light. There's modern methods of construction we're looking at all the time now. So yeah, it's important that you've got an open mind and you can just keep looking forward.
So I've noticed, diving into drylining kind of now, I've noticed that a lot more projects getting spec to be drylined rather than, plastered. Is that true? What's the reason behind that?
Yeah, so kind of predominantly we see residential projects are plastered, traditional skim. Most people would say plaster is a little bit more resilient. Kind of if you're, put it like this, if I'm building myself a house, I'll be plastering the walls. If it's more of a commercial building, then, tape and joint is much quicker, it dries faster. I don't want to cause an argument between tapers and jointers and plasterers. Some people might say it's a better finish. But kind of, yeah, that's where I see the line. Residential for plastering, tape and jointing for commercial. Although down south, I think tape and joint is taking over everything, to be honest. But in the Midlands and North, plastering is still a big part of the industry. But yeah, there's and I'm seeing also a move now to spray plastering. We were close to starting it on a recent project. In the end, we couldn't go with it because the project wasn't moving at the pace that we wanted to, but it's definitely something I'm going to be exploring again, spray plastering. It goes on much quicker. You need to have volume, kind of if you're just going to do one or two apartments, it's not worth it. But if you've got to spray plaster 300 studios, the time taken will be much quicker. The finish is going to be better. It goes on white and it's a level 5 finish, which means, it's the top level finish you can get. Costs a little bit more, but I think the speed and the quality will override on some projects. So I definitely see a future in spray plaster as well.
before today's episode, I was doing a bit of research into the progression a lot of drylining companies take. One thing that kind of came up with a few companies was they've naturally progressed into doing fire stopping works. Do you think that's something you'll maybe take on board one day?
No, I've thought about that. To be honest, and the acquisitions is something that does interest me. Kind of as an entrepreneur and a business starter, you're always kind of looking at how can I add value to my business? How can I increase our revenue? And I suppose fire stopping, it comes first of all, it comes in in a similar area to our trade. So as we're creating the builders' work openings, the fire stoppers coming in behind and fire stopping those builders' work openings. So I definitely see an opportunity there. It's something I haven't fully explored myself, but I've definitely had a little look. Obviously fire stopping comes with a massive responsibility. People's lives are on the line. So it's something that I'd look to get into, but it'd have to be done correctly. You've got to be fire risk registered, right people work for you, definitely the right software documentation. But it's definitely somewhere to look to grow revenue. You can add on other trades onto that, maybe joinery. I see a lot of dry lining companies get involved in joinery as well. It's the next. So you look what happens before partitioning and what happens straight after, and if you're in the area at the same time, it makes sense. But yeah, something I'm not looking at right now, but potentially could in the future.
On the majority of these projects, you'll be working, I imagine, alongside a lot of other trades. What's the right way of saying this? Who would you say is the biggest pain in the arse on site?
In terms of trades, it's always a battle between us and M&E, isn't it? So mechanical and electrical is the ever ongoing battle. To be honest, we work closely with a couple of M&E contractors who, we're kind of on the same projects and things like that. So we build, I've got a good relationship with the contractor managers there, and sometimes there'll be, instead of us going to the main contractor and fighting it out and saying, oh, he's cut a hole in my wall and he hasn't put the builder's work in the right place, there'll be a phone call going between us and we'll just try and figure it out. But yeah, to be honest, the mechanical electrical side of things, it's not always one of our faults. A lot of the time we'll go on to the main thing that I see when we're going on to a project and there's time constraints like every construction project, and they want to get the walls up, and sometimes it's not, the design isn't fully thought through, particularly builders' work openings, which kind of everyone thinks, oh, it's just an opening above a door, but there's so many things that can go wrong with it. Kind of if you don't get it at the right height, the ducting goes through, and you won't realise till 2 months later when the ducters go through that it can't be next to a different conduit, or it's got to have a fall on it, and it needs to go a little bit higher, and it becomes a real issue. So M&E, we always clash with them because of that, but it's not necessarily one of our faults. I just think the projects could be designed out a little bit quicker. But normally the M&E contractors have been appointed when we've been appointed, and nobody's going to do a full M&E design unless they've been appointed to the project. So when they get appointed to the project, that's when they then tend to start designing it. But by that point, they're already, we're getting forced down the road to build the wall. So that's probably one of the biggest clashes we have in terms of other trades, but it's not necessarily their fault.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. That I really would have thought the first answer would have been decorators out of anyone.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you've opened up that box of eggs now. But yeah, we do kind of sometimes. What we're finding currently is there's a lot of decorators now who come onto site and they're not decorators, they're painters. So, the big commercial projects, the big sheds that we do, sometimes they'll come on and they're just there to paint. The old kind of way of doing it, there's a standard rule between dry liners and decorators. If there's a snag that's bigger than 50p, we have to sort it out. If it's less than 50p, the decorator will fine fill it and sort it out. That's kind of the crux of it. But we're finding now a lot of commercial painters are going in pretty cheap on rates, and all they want to do is paint, and that's it. And this is construction. Plastering, tape and joining is a hand applied finish. It's not a machine finish. There is going to be little bits. There is going to be a hole's been cut out after it needs patching and things like that. So yeah, you've opened that up now. So yeah, decorators is another one that we do cross paths with every now and again. Not often, obviously, because Proline leaves a fantastic finish on every project.
That rolls on quite nicely to my next question. Obviously, construction's a fun game to be in. You know, a lot of highs, but on the flip side of that, you know, sometimes you can go through hard times of struggle. Have you kind of got any stories or instances that you've come across where, you know, it's not been the easiest of times, and maybe just discuss how you know, kind of fought back and got through it?
Yeah, I'd probably say the biggest one we had so far in our history was a main contractor going bump on us in the middle of last year. So kind of we were halfway through a significant size contract, you know, kind of million plus payments were coming in a little bit late, and you have that dreaded feeling, and you hear whispers in the industry, but kind of, you know, when you're in contract, it's difficult, you know, kind of, you can't just pull everyone off. You know, if you do pull everyone off, where do the lads go? You know, payments come in and they'll be late, but you got them, and then next month it's fighting that battle. So yeah, we had a significant hit 6 months ago, and that was probably one of the lowest points. And it wasn't just the monetary loss; it was, you know, a big live project with, you know, 15, 20 guys on that. The doors just shut on immediately. So that wasn't a nice experience. But, you know, kind of a lot of companies would just fold and crack on. But, you know, I built Proline for, you know, last 7, 8 years now, and yeah, it was a hit. But, you know, I don't see enough in this industry of people carrying on. People seem to fold very quickly. You know, I know every case is different, but for me, I didn't want to spend another 7, 8 years of getting to the size that we are now. And I knew that if, you know, kind of Proline wasn't going to be anymore, then I'd have to start from the beginning. No one's going to give me £1 million contract next week, and kind of, you know, you've got to make hay while the sun shines. We had a good few years, and okay, I took a personal hit, and, you know, but we carried on through it, became stronger, and we got a lot of confidence in the business. You know, distributors and our suppliers were calling me like, "Are you okay?" You know, we had a lot of support. You know, it was really good. I had all the big distributors call me when they knew what happened, and it wasn't kind of like, "Are you going to pay us?" It was like, "Can we help you with anything? Have you got any issues? You know, kind of, do you need a bit more time or anything?" And that was really kind of, you know, it's a bit of a cutthroat business, but that was pretty good. And, you know, our mantra was, no, everything's fine. Everyone gets paid on time. And I think it's afforded us a bit more confidence, to be honest, that people saw that we kind of got through that point. And after it happened, we picked up 3 significant size projects pretty soon after, by using kind of LinkedIn and telling people about what had happened. And yeah, they had the confidence in us to say, look, we've seen what's happened. We'd like to keep you going, get you through this tough time. And yeah, it turned around really quickly. So yeah, I think that was an important life lesson to kind of keep cracking on.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's good for a lot of people to hear, to be honest. But yeah, it's crazy. It seems like at the minute there's a lot of companies going into administration. Every time I go on construction news, it's just a different big name. Yeah, scary times.
It's really scary. And the thing that I kind of, you know, I love construction, but the one thing I hate about construction is that, you know, kind of, we can run our businesses as brilliantly as we want, but the current industry terms and the way it's set up is that, you know, if someone above you, you know, goes bump and you're running a couple of projects for them and you're on 45, 60-day payments, you know, kind of, by the time, if you're on £1 million contract, you know, over 10 months, and it's 100 grand a month invoicing, if you're month end 47 days or whatever, and, you know, you're going down the road, you're getting paid, but then one payment doesn't come in, then you've still got another, you know, 45, 60 days behind that. And the lads have still worked during all that time. You're still getting the materials. So you're looking at a couple of, before you know it, you know, you're in hundreds of thousands of pounds in a deficit. And it's just unfortunate that no matter how well we run things our end, you're never really ultimately in control of your own, destiny. It's that's the one of the difficult things about construction. It's fraught with risk. It's exciting. You can do well on the sunny days. Things are great, but it's inherently risky. And yeah, those guys above you that hold all the strings, hold all the retention. I think for me, one thing I'd love to see is kind of ring fence bank accounts. So let's say there's a project, that's been earmarked for £40 million worth of construction. The client should, escrow that money. It stays in kind of, that, and the main contractor can draw down on it, but they can't take that money and prop up other failing projects up and down the country and use that. That would be the ideal situation. As I know it's been discussed in Parliament and things like that, and there's probably a lot of blockers to it, but I think we're light years behind in this country, and it's weighted pretty unfairly against the specialist contractors like ourselves.
So to give the listeners a bit of perspective, what are the largest and smallest contracts you guys tend to undertake?
In terms of value now, I'd probably say minimum project value would probably be about £50,000. We don't get many of them, to be honest. Most of our projects now are between £500,000 to £2 million, largest being £3 million. So kind of, incrementally over the past 8 years, you don't really notice it going up because you'll do a 50 grand job at the start, and then it's a 70 grand job and a 90 and 100, and it kind of just incrementally goes up each time. So there's never been a point where, like, wow, we're now doing X size contracts. But yeah, that's our sweet spot is probably about a couple of £1 million. They're pretty decent contracts. They're normally running for 6 to 8 months, so you can get you win a £2 million contract, and you're not in and out. You can set things up. So if I win a £2.5 million contract next week, maybe I can bring in another 2 employees. It gives us that kind of solid foundation for the next 8-9 months of that program. That you've got that, or you should have that cash flow coming in each month, and enable you to grow your business.
In the past, I've dealt with a lot of people who almost cross the fingers and hope for the best when it comes to, managing live projects. What have you kind of got in place in terms of processes?
Yeah, so again, our software TalkString will kind of, it gives us up to the minute detail of where we are in a project. So kind of we have it like in a pie chart format. So we'll know when a project goes live. We'll know there'll be a pie chart, and we will know if that project is worth £2 million. It will be able to see exactly how much we're going to spend on materials, exactly how much we're going to spend on labour. We'll have a contingency. We might have to put some inflation in there, the overhead profit, and it'll all be broken down individually. And the contingency is there for those, things that you can't see. There's, on every project, there'll always be something that kind of overruns, or someone's uncovered, or someone has, someone's made an error, and, or there's a material that needs kind of changing, and we might have to take the hit on that. So, yeah, I think it's, before we had the software, it was kind of like, there's my number, and at the end of the project, I'll do the sums. What's gone in the bank account? What have I paid out? Oh, I've made money, or I haven't, there's not as much in that as I've hoped, or I hadn't lost any money on a project before, but kind of that was the overview. It was always looking back at it. This way, when we're using our commercial software now, because our commercial managers are out there doing valuation, they're doing progress every week, maybe every 2 weeks, all the invoices. So we're ordering materials from the app. It's going to our distribution. The invoices are then coming into our software. We're marrying them up. We know exactly, kind of the commercial guys will tick that off. Yep, that's good. That's ready to be paid. So we've always got an up-to-date vision of exactly where the project is in terms of monetary value. But also along that, the program will be plugged into it. So we might have prelims for 40 weeks. We can see, we'll have a tracker on the program where we should be. how many weeks of prelims do we have left in the project? Will we have to go to the client and say, look, your project's going to overrun. We don't feel it's our fault. Will you pay us extra prelims? There's a lot of things like that. So, yeah, we have a really accurate, real-time view of every project currently, and I think that's really important.
When looking at scheduling, future projects, I imagine there's a lot of times people calling you saying, can you start tomorrow? Can we push that one back a month? It happens, to all trades. I imagine a company of your size relies a lot on their subcontracted operatives. Can you just tell me a bit more about, the split of your cards in lads, or kind of how you distribute the work in regards to labour?
Recently now, what we try and do is we try and use large gangs that will have kind of one person who operates that large gang, almost a gangmaster. And sometimes we'll use them as our site managers. So kind of they'll be in control of, maybe 10, 15, 20, 25 guys. It just makes our life a little bit easier, instead of having 18 invoices on a Friday to pick through. You've got kind of one invoice from one company. There's a lot of really good gangs that we use now. It took a lot of time to whittle them down, but they're pretty decent sized organisations in their own right. They come with all the correct tickets. Their SMSTS, the triple STS, the experience in running their businesses. They know how to use kind of Excel sheet software. Booking in. They've been on Cineat or British Gypsum training courses, so we know that what they're installing is pretty good. So yeah, that's kind of we've built good relationships with guys over the years. I mean, kind of one of our main subcontractors or specialist contractor that we use and manage now, I've kind of known them personally for 16, 17 years. We used to work on the tools together, and again, I've been burnt in the past where kind of I've just got guys in on a whim, or I always like to figure out what people have done, what kind of projects have they done, what are the people like, can I go out with them, can I have a chat, again, everything is always relationships. So we try and use large tried and tested gangs who are used to upping and dropping off labour, as it happens. Construction programs are tight. We're on one at the minute where kind of been a lot of water ingress. We're just coming into February now. A roof's failed and things like that. It's stopped. We've had to drop off, I think, 5 plasterers today. There's no more work for them for the next week. But by using the large gangs, they're perhaps on other projects as well. They can lose them to a different project, and we can bring them back in a couple of weeks' time. So that helps us man up our projects sufficiently currently.
Yeah. So in recent times, what's kind of the most on-site operatives you could expect to be working at any given time at Proline?
I think we had about 45 guys across 3 sites last week. I'd probably say that's tipping to the top end of what we do. So yeah, about 45 across the 3. So yeah, I think the largest site we've currently got, we've got 28. We've got 2 site managers, probably about 5 plasterers. I think there's about 28 operatives on that site currently. It's halfway through a significant student build.
Now, flipping the subject, I suppose, apprentices in the workforce, is that something you've looked into? I know you mentioned just then you work with a lot of big gangs of lads. Is there an opportunity at Proline for you guys to take on apprentices, or maybe you've got some on board?
We haven't yet, but yeah, it's something I've been exploring recently, actually. So we work alongside, we're an FIS member, actually, the Finish's interior trade body, and kind of they understand and they see there's a big skills shortage. I think in the drylining industry, we're about 6,000 people. We need about 6,000 people a year coming into the industry. I think currently there's not even half that. So yeah, I actually went and met some students at Sutton Coldfield College probably a couple of months back, just to give them a guide on how to get in the industry, opportunities that are there. And yeah, it's something that we're looking for. So I think the next large project that we're looking to get on, I think again that'll give us the key to take on an apprentice long term. You know, we need those larger projects that run for 9 months, 12 months, 14 months to give the apprentices a good run at it. You know, some of our projects might be a 10-week project, a quick turnaround. Something long term like that is definitely something where we're looking to give 1 or 2 people a bit of a chance into the industry.
I've noticed in the current generation of people who are coming into, you know, working after education, construction for some reason is seen as, you know, a trade you might not want to be in unless you have to. Could you maybe touch on, or maybe give a bit of advice on why, you know, younger people should come in, you know, to the construction industry?
I think people, or I'm not going to generalise everyone, but I think the younger population now are kind of looking at a lot of social media. You know, everyone wants to be in, you know, kind of, you know, be an influencer and that kind of thing. And maybe construction work looks a little bit dirty, a little bit kind of, you know, it's for the guys that didn't do very well at school, which it is a lot of the time. People like, you know, I was never a straight A student, but it does give you an opportunity to earn pretty significant, decent living. You know, kind of the guys that you know work for us, you know, good qualified fixers. They're you know they're bringing in £1,000 a week plus most weeks. You know, it's decent wages. You know, people think, you know, you're not just sweeping up a site all day long and you know, £40 cash in hand. There's good money to be earned in construction. Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to get up on cold mornings. It's hard work. It's labour intensive. You know, we try and, with health and safety nowadays, take away a lot of the manual handling where we can. But, you know, unfortunately, you know, we haven't got robots to stick plasterboard on walls yet. Well, I have seen a few videos of them, but then we haven't rolled any of them out as yet. So yeah, it's a good opportunity to get into an industry where you might not necessarily need, you know, A-levels and things like that, but apprenticeships are a good way. You know, some apprentices are as good as a degree. You know, a lot of the mechanical and electrical modern apprenticeships, you know, 4-year apprenticeships with a clear pathway to earning a significant salary is a really good way to go for some people. I think, you know, not everyone's designed to be working in a commercial environment or an office 9 to 5. And yeah, I wouldn't look at it as just that dirty pastime or dirty industry to be in. There's you can earn a good wage for you and your family, and there's opportunities. Most construction businesses can be scalable. You know, kind of, I started as a labourer, you know, kind of when I was in insurance, I'd had enough of it. I couldn't work in an office. It wasn't really for me. I went abroad. I travelled. I went to Australia for 6 months. Again, if I could recommend to anyone, do that when you're young. You know, explore the world, give yourself a different set of eyes. Came back, started as a hod carrier. You know, probably the toughest job that you can get in construction. You know, kind of all day, every day, loading out blocks, loading out bricks. You know, climbing up ladders with, you know, 20, 30 kilo buckets of mortar on your shoulders. And, you know, you do that for a year and a half, it gives you a good appreciation. Then started loading out plasterboard for people. Somebody saw me, gave me a bit of an opportunity to learn that trade and kind of ran with it and, you know, built a scalable business. You know, kind of some construction businesses might turn over 100, 120 million pound a year plus. If you get into main contracting even further, your profits might not be as much, but there you go. But yeah, it's definitely a good industry to get in. There's lots of opportunities. There's, you know, so many more buildings need to be built. You know, we've got a housing crisis in this country. We've got to build, you know, 1 million houses a year, something like that. So it's not an industry that I see dying away anytime soon. If, you know, there's plenty of opportunities in it.
So then I guess the next question is for the, you know, people further down the line who might already be in employment or just started a company, what would be your advice to them? You know, day one, they're starting a company. You know, what wise words of wisdom could you give to somebody in that position?
Yeah, I think you need to have a good skill set. You know, if you're practically good at your job, you know, you'll always be in demand. And that's great. You might be the best bricklayer in the world, but if you really struggle with sending an email or kind of, putting together a cost analysis or something, then you can't completely rule out growing your business. But I'd recommend that you look at getting people in that role that are good at it. It doesn't have to. You don't have to go out and go on Indeed or recruitment agency to find someone. Is there someone close to you? In your family? Your cousin, one of your kids. Is it kind of other people that you can team up with? That's how I got into the industry. I teamed up with people at the start that had better skill sets or different skill sets. So if creating construction business isn't just about being the best plasterer or being the best bricklayer, that's a big part of it, but there's so many other different sectors to your business that need to be all around. You need to be able to communicate effectively with people. You can't be too hot-headed. You need a decent financial status to start with. So yeah, there's many different ways of looking at starting a new business, but gradually would always be kind of I've seen a lot of companies take on too much and crash and burn very quickly. They haven't got the credit line to fulfill the projects. They can't get the materials. So I think incrementally is my advice. Start and you'll know in 3 to 4 to 5 months whether to go or not. Some people aren't built for entrepreneurship and kind of going out there on their own. Some people they want to go to work 5 days a week and earn their money, and that's fine. This industry takes all sorts of people. It needs the people that can practically do it, and also the people that are commercially nice with it as well. So yeah, incrementally and just bring in some guidance is my advice.
Now we're actually nearing the end of the episode. One thing I'm planning on hopefully asking everybody is, how did you come up with the name of your company? So how did you create Proline Internals?
I think we're dry liners, so always, dry lining and partitioning, it's key to setting out, and, grid lines and things like that is something that's, always tied into dry lining. So I wanted something that had line in it. We're dry liners. We work to grid lines. That's important. So, I'd like to think we're professional at that. So kind of Proline was born. And, internals. Now, if I started the company again, would I come up with the name Proline Internals? Maybe not, because we also do SFS now, which is an external product. So kind of, but changing to Proline Internals and externals doesn't really roll off the tongue. So yeah, I think it's important. I really spent a lot of time. People might not think of thinking of that, but I just think if you're trying to get to a certain place and you want to be, you've got visions of being a bit grander further down the line. I think Mr. Davies's dry lining company or someone's name. It's just my opinion that, there's loads of people of, Dave's plastering services and things like that. I just think for the bigger company, you want something that you can take with you if you do grow exponentially.
I think you just crushed all them questions, to be fair. I think everyone's either going to find them interesting or they're going to find them very useful, for their kind of situation at the minute. Now leaving the episode, any last or final words you might want to, leave as a bit of a take home?
Yeah, I was a dry liner with no commercial experience, didn't go to university, couldn't do takeoffs, couldn't really do bills and quants, anything like that. But I had a good understanding of the practical side of it, the systems, how things go together, construction programs. So I think it's important that you just bring people in that are better than you in that area. Not everyone is afforded the chance of bringing in a full-time QS stroke estimator. Yourself, there's lots of companies out there that will freelance for you. You might have a project come in. You can outsource that to, a freelance QS, a freelance estimator who you can hand over all the drawings to. You tell them, look, I want this project costed. These are my labour rates. This is what I'm paying for materials. Can you get it all together for me? Present it in something that I can give to a main contractor. So I think that's key. That there is those services out there. Kind of use them when you can. You don't have to fully commit to bringing on a full-time commercial person or a full-time QS. So there's ways and means of going through it. So yeah, dream big is probably my last bit of advice.
Thanks for listening to episode 1 of the Sharpen Your Pencil podcast. I've just done this ending already, but after going through the clips of the episode and, you know, the conversations following, there's a bit of a clip that I think you should listen to. I think it's definitely worth listening to. So yeah, please take the time to have a listen.
We support the Lighthouse charity. We pay them something per year, and you know, there's a lot of you know, construction guys commit suicide. There's some crazy stats that, you know, I think there's 35 construction deaths every year from accidents, and 650 construction operatives kill themselves every year. So it's kind of like it's crazy. And we put something up on World Mental Health Day, and it was just me walking through a load of our lads. We was having a bit of a toolbox talk on mental health, and with just a little bit of music over it. Nothing to it really, but yeah, it got like 155,000 views, and it's hundreds of comments on there of you know, construction workers just opening up about how they felt like killing themselves, and that it was crazy really.
Yeah, so after hearing Gareth, you know, speak about that, I think it's important that, you know, if this does get any traction, to kind of take the positive steps to, you know, help that issue. So I'm not sure in what way yet, but keep posted, stay tuned, and, you know, we'll figure it out.